Hello, my name is Sissy and I'm a Ghana medical doctor working and training in the UK. I'm currently a psychiatry trainee and I recently just passed my ARCP, so technically I'm now a CT2. Yay! ARCP stands for the Annual Review of Competency Progression. It is the way doctors in training are reviewed each year before being allowed to progress to the next year. I made a whole video about it here. Basically, there are several workplace-based assessments that you must have signed off each year in training. So each training program has its own list on the college curriculum and each deanery might have a few alterations. So for psychiatry training, this is the list. So for each of these workplace-based assessments, you're going to be assessed by someone, usually a senior colleague, like a registrar or a consultant, who rates your performance as they sign off the form. The first workplace-based assessment is an ACE. That's an assessment of clinical expertise. This is where an assessor observes an entire clinical encounter. So you have to take a full history, mental state examination, get a diagnosis, and make a management plan. In a mini ACE, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a smaller or shorter version of an ACE. So an assessor observes only part of an interaction. So for example, they might observe you taking history or negotiating a treatment plan. A CBD is a case-based discussion. So you get one of the notes of the patient you have seen and discuss some aspect of it with your assessor. It's a way for you to show application of clinical knowledge and decision making. So for instance, you can discuss management of a certain condition. A case presentation is exactly that. You give a presentation of a case you might have found interesting to your colleagues. So for me, it's usually at our local academic program. A journal club presentation. This is where you present a scientific journal article where you analyze and critique the paper to your colleagues. We have a weekly trust-wide journal club that is held virtually at my trust, so it's easy to get this signed off because it's compulsory. Directly observed procedural skills or DOPS. This is where you observe performing some sort of skill, which in psychiatry is rare, but it could be applicable. For instance, if you're observed administering ECT, that's one of the things. A mini PAT stands for a mini peer assessment tool. This is a way to get multi-source feedback, so your co-workers are going to assess your attitudes and behaviors and ability to work well in a team. The assessors here will be like nurses, HCS, pharmacists, and even the admin staff. Assessment of teaching is an assessment of your teaching. So you get this form filled for you doing any teaching. For instance, if you're teaching medical students, if you're giving a lecture or some sort of presentation. If you like this video up to this point, then please give it a thumbs up. This helps it spread to more people who might need it as well. Thank you. There are also 4 other workplace-based assessments specific to psychotherapy: CBDGA, SAPE, PSCE, and an SAPA. A lot of acronyms, I know. So a CBDGA is a case-based discussion group assessment, which is about a case that you present while in balanced group. A PACE or a PSCE is a psychotherapy assessment of clinical expertise, which you should get as you do your short case and your long case. You need 1 for the short case and 2 for the long case. It is a formative assessment about discussions you have with your supervisor during the case and a chance for you to get feedback before the end of therapy. A SAPA or a structured assessment of psychodynamic psychotherapy assessment is used to assess your performance undertaking patient assessments in psychodynamic psychotherapy specifically. A SAPE or a structured assessment of psychotherapy expertise is used to provide evidence of satisfactory completion of a psychotherapy case. So it is a summative assessment that you will have filled at the end of your cases, at the end of therapy. In addition to all those, you also need to do reflections in your portfolio. So for instance, in psychiatry, you're required to do at least 12 reflections in a year. A reflection is basically where you look back at a certain situation and see what you could learn from it. Do you want to see a video about how to write a good reflection in detail? Comment below if you would and maybe I'll do it. In addition to all of the above, I know it's already a lot. So my deanery, which is KSS or Kent, Surrey and Sussex, requires us to have a leader form every single year. So this falls under the category of donks or directly observed non-clinical skills. So the leader form is where you have to show some sort of leadership skills. So for instance, chairing a meeting, being a trainee rep, or organizing some sort of teaching. I hope I've broken it down easily for you to understand. If you'd like to talk to me specifically about your own situation, why not book a one-on-one session with me? Link is in my bio to my website where you can go and book a session. So I got most of my workplace-based assessments signed off in the first 6 months of CT1 because I was pregnant and I knew I was not going to complete the entire year. And I didn't want to go for maternity leave and then come back and have a whole long list of things to do. I'll now share some tips that I found helpful to do this. So at the very beginning, have a look at your curriculum on your Royal College website. They publish the ARCP requirements for the different levels of training. My second tip is to make use of other stuff that can sign for you. So for instance, for the mini ACE, it's not just consultants or registrars that can sign this, but also psychologists, social workers, band 7 nurses and above. My next tip is to start collecting evidence as early as possible. Try and have a plan of how you're going to do it. So for instance, just because they suggest you do one reflection on math doesn't mean you should do just one reflection on math. So for me personally, I make sure I do minimum 1 to 2 reflections in a math. So that way I know for sure if anything happens in the later part of the year and maybe I'm not able to complete it all, at least I've got the bare minimum requirements. We all know people who procrastinate and just wait to panic at the end. Share this video with one of these people, please. Or are you one of these people? If you are, then give me a like. My next tip is to maximize less busy placements. When you're in a less busy job, like for instance, community outpatient jobs, you might have an hour or 2 a day to spare in which you can work on your portfolio. My next tip is to start your mini part as early as possible. It does last for only 28 days, so you should aim to do it at least 2 months before the end of the placement, or at least 2 months before the ARCP is due. Make sure you send to an excess number of people. This is because some people might not fill in the form back in time and then you won't have the required number. For the audit, if you don't have your own idea or if you haven't done an audit before and you're not quite sure what to do, contact your audit department. They might give you an idea of an audit to do. They probably have an audit that they're doing themselves and you can offer to help out in data collection or analysis, and then they can give you a certificate to use for your portfolio. There are national audits that usually take place, and there's one called POMH, for instance, that happens, and I took part in this because the audit department was doing it and I offered to help with taking part. My next tip is to get more than one form filled for an activity if applicable. So for instance, when I did my journal club presentation, my consultant happily signed off the JCP form and also the AOT form because first of all it was a journal club presentation, but also I was giving some sort of teaching during my presentation. So it's like I got 2 for the price of 1. Finally, you also have to do your college exams as well to progress in training. I made this video here about how to pass exams even as a busy mom.